And I can't get the whole tower in. Hi guys, welcome to my video. I bought this kit about 2 months ago, I believe. It's the IXO Eiffel Tower. And I just wanted to make a video to share some details and give people an idea of what to expect when you're building it, as there will be many swear jars filled. So we've only just got this really over here in the UK. It was originally released, I believe, about 8 years ago in France, and it was a magazine purchase, so you got a magazine every month with additional parts in, and you put it together, and probably would have been over maybe a year or so. I'll just turn my lights off actually, because I want to get close up, and I think they'll just dizzy the focus. You get this remote control with it, which has got your functions, so I'll show you the lights quickly. So you've got this rainbow effect, and sorry, I'm just trying to hold the camera without distorting. So you press the button number 2 and you will change the lights to red, green, blue, which I usually have this setting, and then off. You've also got buttons for the elevators, and there would have been optics in the build, but I decided not to put them in, as in they were more trouble than they were worth. I applaud anybody who has built this structure and finished it with full working optics. I mean, as you can see, you've got holes in each girder, truss, or I could just call them girders. To put you get these bulbs with, and then they go in a fibre optic, but they just kept the bulbs just kept popping out, and some would fit nicely, some wouldn't. And then when you put the optics in, the optic would just fall out again. Some would fit beautifully, some would just struggle. So I decided to just abandon the using the optics, as in it was just causing too much stress. I am a patient guy really, but they just really, just pushed me over the edge really. So I decided just to abandon that. And then well, I did try glue, and glue would sort of fuse the bulb to the optic, and then what would happen is turn the contrast up, not too much, and then you would it's stumbling here with my words. So the frustrating part is getting them in isn't that difficult, but once you start building the tower and you're putting things in like these elevator rails, and then on this side you have you've got a staircase here. There we go. I mean, how you get that staircase in with the optics, I don't know. I mean, I know I've seen people, they flatten the optics to the side so they're not in the way, but they just kept coming out. They just kept popping out. The optic would snap. I know they are very delicate things, but yeah, I decided to go, do you know what? I'm happy just using the LEDs that are on the platform, which is these here, and you got the ones on the pavilion in the middle, and then the top. So I think it actually looks a bit better because it doesn't look as fussy, and as it looked a little bit a bit messy, really is the best word I can use. Right, so I'll point out some details that, I think the tower is fantastic. I think they've done an amazing job at recreating the details, and I have been a fan of the Eiffel Tower since being a kid, back in the 80s, and I'm now in my 40s. So I've always had a little fascination with it, and finding a model that actually looks correct has been very, very difficult over the years. Not many companies can recreate this tower to actually look how it should look in real life. And one of the main details people get wrong is this section here, where it slightly curves up to the top, and it actually is thinner at the top than it is at the bottom. So from here it's thicker and it's thinner at the top. Most companies just basically just do a straight, you know, straight from the bottom straight to the top. When it actually does bend, there is a slight curve here. All this detail is correct here, you know, the ornate detailing, the girders. The first platform for me isn't right. It's a little bit exaggerated on the edge. If you look here, it doesn't protrude with that exaggeration on the real tower. It's actually quite straight. It's not a deal breaker, but you know, with the model being now released all these years later, it would have been nice if they would have revised that. I don't know if anybody else has really, you know, mentioned it or brought it up. Pavilions again, they're a nice touch. They are the later pavilions, obviously. I did paint these. They do come originally in gold. So if you do buy the model, yours will be gold. So to make it look more like the real tower, I sprayed them in a ruby red, which is a Peugeot colour. And it has a very nice little slight. You don't see it in this low light, but when the sunlight is on it directly, you will see a little bit of a gold fleck, which I think looks really nice. And then, yeah, I just love all these trusses, these girders, these, you know, these cross beams. I think it just, you know, they have really nailed it. The only thing I find strange is this elevator, the angle it sits at when it's at the top. Obviously it's accounting for the different angle as it gets to the first, you know, from here to here. And the other thing to point out as well when you're making this model, this elevator has caused me nothing but trouble. I've actually had this tower apart probably 3 times, and it's a real pain to actually take the tower apart from the top here. You've got to remove everything inside because this lift shaft is attached there and is obviously attached there. Otherwise you could just remove the bolts around the second platform to get access and remove the top, but that wasn't the case, sadly. So my elevator, the string keeps getting tangled, and you would think it's not really a complex thing, is it? Just putting a piece of string around a barrel and allowing itself to wind in and out. But no, mine just keeps failing. At one point I'd just put it all back together and the actual spindle on the end inside the motor actually fell off, which caused the string then to just unwind. And I'll just try and, if I can, I'll point this out in the instructions. And the other thing I was going to say as well, the instructions are now just in black and white, whereas the original instructions were like a nice high-res colour picture, so you can follow them a lot easier. That spindle there, sorry, this light is a bit, I'm about overexposed a minute. That spindle, sorry, goes on the end of the motor, which will show you there, and mine fell off. And I follow this exactly here, where you put the string through the side, wrap it round a little bit, feed it through, because obviously once you've got it on, string comes through that hole there, and sorry, I'm trying to get this exposure right, it's a bit fiddly. Yeah, and then basically it winds up, the string goes in and out, you get to the top of the elevator, which I'll show you a bit on this side because this one's just static. It hits that little prong there, and when it hits that, it reverses the polarity, and then the motor will then send the elevator all the way down. And then you get a little switch here at the bottom. It hits that switch, and you know, the same happens. I think it actually turns it off, I can't remember. You've got to press the button on the remote. So the other thing to point out when you're building it, because I go all the way to the top again, put the motor in, no motor working. I was like, right, I've got a defective motor here. That actually wasn't the case. I realised later that, like, this prong here, this little piece of metal which reverses the polarity, when you're building it, make sure that because there is two down here in this little recess here. Sorry, you can't quite see. What you do is you make sure that they're not touching when you actually assemble that stage, because what will happen is the motor will think I think it thinks it's switched off, and it will never switch back on again. Even if you press the remote, it just won't work. But like I say, one of the other problems with this elevator, which has caused me no end of problems, when it gets down here on the rail, if you can just see there, I do apologise for the phone not being able to focus. It's nothing fancy. If you see where it joins, you can see the join there. I've actually had to Dremel that because it had a lot of excess metal sticking out, which actually was causing the elevator to get stuck. So it'll go from there. It'll go from the second pavilion down the leg, get to the first floor, and it'll get stuck, and the motor will start straining. So I tried to smoothen it out with my Dremel. It still didn't work, and now I've got two elevator shafts in mine. You won't get two in yours if you order this kit. You will, like, I have the red elevator with the red elevator. Yeah, you won't get that in yours. You'll only get the yellow one, which is in this side. The reason why I went for another elevator was because it just finishes the model. It really does. Especially when you've got it in the right light and you can just see the rails running down the legs. Really looks awesome. I mean, at certain times of day when the light's just right, it really sets the model off for me. It just looks perfect. Yeah, so I actually reached out to IXO. I think they pronounce it IXO. I don't know if it's just the abbreviation or IXO or whatever, but I reached out to them, and I actually did ask if I could purchase an additional 2 elevators, because here again you've got the recess for the elevator, and this must have been possibly what they intended when they was designing the model, to have 3 elevators. The real tower does have 4. Let's lower that contrast down a bit. There we go. The real tower does have 4 elevators. I think one is electric, which would be on this side, and that goes straight into, which is the restaurant here. And as it's electric, I don't think it runs directly on a cable like the original 3. So the one on the other side would be another yellow one, I believe. You can see this when you look at images online. Yes, so they kindly sent me another elevator out, and it came yellow, so it was just like that. And I had to spray these I actually sprayed them in toolbox red, and it matches lovely with the red elevator there. And let me tell you, right, I tried different ideas for the elevator to get those windows on. I mean, I painted it black, I masked the windows over, and then painted it red. Looked alright, but not perfect. And then, so I was a bit like, nah, it doesn't look right. So I sprayed it red, then tried to manually paint, just with a brush, the actual windows. And I just couldn't do it. I just don't have the skill. So I was just going to leave it red, just put it all, spray it all red, and then leave it as that. But I actually ended up finding a piece of vinyl, black vinyl, in my cupboard, which was intended for my car, for the roof, which I'd never used. And then I actually just cut the windows out, measured them up, cut them along, and it actually works really nice, and it's a lot easier because once they're stuck on, you can slightly move them if they're not in position properly. And then I went over them with lacquer, and the lacquer just finished it off. It just looks great. It blends them in nicely. I did actually re-lacquer this elevator as well, just to make it blend in better. Also, other changes I've done, I changed the antenna at the top, because mine, when I unwrapped it for the final stage, it was bent. You can actually see there, it's not straight. Even though it is straight, and I used warm water and some clamps to straighten it out, it still just didn't look right. So I think not that long ago they did actually put an extra 6 meters on top of the antenna on the real tower. So I've basically emulated that effect, and this is Lego. I like the, it creates that nice ribbed effect which the real tower has. And then we've got the little 6 meter, well, roughly. Your tower won't have this. It will just be like this. It will look like that all the way to the top. And again, the top for me, it's not perfect. It's not right, really. There's a lot more going on the real tower. It's just one of the things I find with models of over the years. Try and find models of the tower, and they can never get the top right. I can't remember if I've already mentioned this. Yeah, I have, haven't I, about the pavilion, the first platform not being correct. It protrudes too much, hence that gap there should be up to the pillar here. It should be flush. But again, not a deal breaker for me. I think if they'd have gone a bit, if certain details would have been too wrong, I wouldn't have purchased it. But it is what it is, I suppose. I also painted the brickwork. Did a bit of panel wash, I think you call it, on the bricks. So I've actually done these a little bit too dark. There should be a bit more of a paler tan colour. But I'm happy with them. They've come out great. They do look better than they do as in just in the gold colour that they would be originally. So I definitely recommend that modification. Paint them. But and then also another little hint as you're building it: dab a glue on your LEDs, because they will fall in. Every LED is the same. If you don't glue them, they will, like there. That one's not quite as proud as that one, and it will affect the way the tower is lit up at night. These, for example, were a real particular pain. The LEDs on here on the pavilion. What happens is you put them in, you do all the gubbins inside, all the wiring, you put the elevators in, you turn it round, you stick it on, and then you realise one of your LEDs has fallen inside. And that happened a few times, because there is parts of the build where you do need to turn the pavilion over. So they had to be glued, otherwise it would have caused more problems. And let me tell you, you don't want to be taking the tower apart to get to this pavilion again, because these pieces of metal here, which are attached to the tower, which is one of the strengthening parts that hold the pavilion on. If you can just see, there's a bolt there. It's like a really thin piece of metal that you bend, and there's only so many times you can tamper with these sort of parts before they just will break. And it's the same with bolts. When you're taking bolts off all the time, because I like my bolts to be tight, my nuts and bolts to be tight, and they will just start snapping and heads will break. As in example down here, that bolt there, the head is snapped off, sheared. So I will glue another head on. I will cut a head off and glue one in there. Apart from that, that's my only trouble I ran into with the bolts, nuts and bolts. Apart from they are so fiddly. I mean, these things, you've got to get, like, there's parts of the build where you've got to feed the you get this like long extender, like extension socket, which you put the bolts in, and then you've got to literally feed them through the girders. I'll actually quickly show you that if I can find it. This is the screwdriver you get. It's a nice screwdriver. You will need another screwdriver. The one provided will not give you full range to get in. For example, these bolts here, you cannot get that with the original screwdriver. You need a long screwdriver, and you'll put it through the girder, as in this section goes in last, this rail. So that is definitely, I'll just pause the video and find the tool. Righty-o, so I found tool I have, and what you do is, this is the tool. It's just got like a little, this is where you put your bolt in, and these bolts are tiny. So what you're doing is not always the case, but sometimes you've got to get this, put it through, find your bolt like that, as you can see in there, one there. Obviously I'm filming so I can't do it properly. Get your screwdriver. Oh, let me tell you, this chair must have 50 bolts under it. Luckily you do get a lot of spares. I just wanted to point out this model as well. This is Aerobase, absolutely beautiful version. This is based on the 1889 tower and is made out of etched metal, stainless steel. You've got the original pavilion there, the old school pavilion. This model actually has more detail than the big model over there, the IXO. There is a lot more going on in terms of girder work. Let me just reduce the exposure again. Or Mickey Mouse there. Right. You've got all the cross beams underneath. You've even got the strut that goes across. There is actually 3 on the original tower. So on the arch there's a strut that goes across on each arch. You can just see that one there more proudly. All the detail that goes up to the platform. Inside, you can't see it now once the model's built, but the cross struts and the trusses, or I just call them girders, but yeah, absolutely. The chap, it's a Japanese fella who designs these models, these Aerobase, and for me they are by far the most detailed that you can buy. You really have to see this in the flesh to appreciate it. You can actually get this model in 60 centimeters. This is a 30 centimeter version. You can get it in 60s, and it actually has lift shafts inside. It'd be nice. It would have been nice if the pavilions had the covers on, but I suppose that would be asking a bit too much. But yeah, the detail. I mean, I really can't. All the cross. I mean, it's spectacular. I really recommend this one as well. Anyway, back to what we was talking about on the IXO, and yeah, a bit sparse for me underneath. Like I say, the real tower here. Sorry, I can't even. I'm trying to point in video. It has cross beams. There's 3 cross beams under the arch that go all the way across. There's no cross beams at all on the underside. But I suppose you're looking at it from this angle, so. But I like those little additional details. It's the same with the girders, you know, with the legs. The real tower has a cross member that goes all the way up. But I suppose because the lift shafts are they're on a different scale really, so it would just cause issues. More so, I think this section is what lets it down as well. It would have been very nice to see some more girder work going on in here. It is very empty looking. You know, you've just got the centre shaft of the rail going up with the elevator, and like I say, for some reason they've missed out that halfway point where the yellow elevator is there. There is a half. I can't remember if I actually mentioned it. There should be a halfway point here. I think it's part of the strengthening of the. You know, I don't know if it's anything to do with the any strengthening to the tower, but I think it's just what the elevators must some sort of supports for the elevators and the rail. I don't know. Never known what its purpose is but it's not present on this model, sadly. Always could build my own if I wanted to, but I ain't taking it apart again, no chance. Second floor would have been nice. There is actually another level. Second floor, there is another level that goes up, like another viewing platform, and it has like arches underneath, so you would you can kind of go into where this, I don't know if it's just the restaurant on the second, I'm not sure, but yeah, again, very empty looking. It's just, again, I might make something in the future, and a rail would have been nice around here. I can't remember that angle of the elevator where it sits annoys me as well. It would have been nice if it actually was flat, but we've discussed earlier, it changes orientation on the leg. And that's the reason for that. Wow, 25 minutes I've been going on about this model. All in all, end result, spectacular model. It's 1m20 high, it's massive. It's about 47 centimeters at the base. I bought this acrylic 50 by 50 cube base for it to sit on, and really sets the tower off, especially at night when it starts getting, you know, sun goes down. You start putting the lights on. It just looks amazing. Even more so if I'd have had the fibre optics installed, but you know, it's just my choice not to put them in. I don't think it really ruins the aesthetics in the end. More so, it's cleaner. It looks cleaner. I can't remember if I actually talked about the LEDs. One thing to avoid as well when you're putting these connectors in, you get these connectors here. Be very careful putting them together, because if you look here, the rainbow effect's on, goes to red. Now red, that LED doesn't work. Green it works, blue it works. So what's happened here is the LED is actually perfectly fine. All the wirings, everything, the circuit board, all fine. I've realised at some point as I've put the connector in, I've bent one of the prongs, and as it's worked on like an RGB, it's not activating the colour. So the red is not activated. One thing would have been very nice, and I'm quite surprised they never did this, and I have seen this done as a mod, and you can actually do this by removing the RGB prongs, is why is it not lit up in yellow? The tower is famously lit at night in like a goldy yellow colour, but you only get blue, green, red and the rainbow effect. Again, you can mod it yourself. You can always go out and buy, you know, the Lego Eiffel Tower has a lighting kit, this is quite similar in scale. It's a little bit smaller than the Lego Eiffel Tower. So you could do that, but it still looks fantastic just with the LEDs. Don't feel let down if you've done what I've done and abandoned the, you know, the fibre optics. It still looks spectacular at night. So I think I'll leave it there then, guys, because if I can think of anything else, I'll jump another video on at the end. But yeah, just try and be patient building it. Take your time, don't rush. There's very, very fiddly parts along the way, and I can tell you, you've got to be a contortionist to get some of these bolts in. And don't just allow yourself to use this, which comes with the kit. You will need additional screwdrivers, particularly very long screwdrivers, especially when you get to this second floor section. There is a lot of very faffy bolts and things that put, especially, you know, these cross beams here. Repetitive, of course, it's going to be repetitive. It's symmetrical, isn't it? The whole tower is literally symmetrical. But you know, I did it over 5 days, 16-hour days. Took a week off work. I can't remember if I even mentioned that. And I just very much a repetitive straining on my arm and my wrist. Let me tell you, all that screwing, not that kind of screwing. But yeah, final results. I'm very, very happy with this model. Very happy. It pays off to persevere, and you won't stop looking at it. Honestly, you'll be at night time, you'll just glance over, yeah, you know, and it's a good talking, starts a good conversation, blows people away when they see it. So yeah, alright guys, I'll leave it there, and maybe at some point I'll do some more videos. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll try my best to reply and answer. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it. Put comments down if you're building this or along the way of, you know, finishing. And I'll see you next time, like, you know what I mean, like, duck, see you there.